acquire us clients, to be able to acquire us for piloting and for probably other tech collaborations. So that's an aspect that we need to discuss here today. I will request the panelists for our next panel, which is corporate startup collaborations, to please come up. I'll request Ms. Lopa Mishra Jana, who is the Chief Operating Officer at STPI Next, to please come up on the stage. Lopa ji will be moderating this panel. I would also request Ms. Binuta Patra. She is the Group General Manager R&D at NALCO here in Bhubaneswar. I'd request Mr. Subrat Kumar Prusti, Director Technology, DOT Bhubaneswar, to kindly come up on the stage. Mr. Debashish Panigrahi, Managing Partner at Mridaya Ventures. Okay, just wanted to play. Okay, that's okay. Please continue. Yeah, that's Ms. Binuta Patra, Group General Manager, NALCO Bhubaneswar. We have with us on stage. We have with us on stage right now Mr. Prasanta Biswal, who is the Head CSR and Corporate Relations at JSW Group Odisha. Mr. Subrat Kumar Prusti, Director, Technology, DOT Bhubaneswar. Mr. Debashish Panigrahi, Managing Partner, Mridaya Ventures Corporate Advisory. And of course, there is Lopa ji, Lopa Mishra Jana, who is the Chief Operating Officer at STPI Next, will be moderating. I think I've missed Mr. Rajesh Ram Mishra, Chief Mentor, NGIS Bhubaneswar, ex-President IESA and ex-CTO Wipro Advisor and Mentor. Ms. Nivedita Jana, COO, Institute of Life Sciences, DBT ILS Bioincubator. Folks, we will be talking about corporate startup collaborations. Over to Ms. Lopa to please take it forward. We missed someone?
Hello. Good afternoon all. Namaskar. Can we please be seated so that we can begin the panel quickly? I request you all at the back. Can someone coordinate to have people who are outside to ask them to come in, please? We should be ringing a bell, actually. Very quickly we begin. And
Mool Innovations, Mr. Simant Srivastav, co-founder Mool Innovation Labs Private Limited. I request you to be on the stage, please.
Sorry about that, Shamanji, please. Should we begin or just wait half a minute and start? Can you please coordinate if somebody is? I request you all to be please seated. We begin? Shall we begin? Rajesh, shall we begin now? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Namaskar. It's good noon. And to start with, regards to all on the dais and off the dais. There's a very interesting topic. Actually, innovation does not start with technology, but with the people who create it. And contemporary rapid market and the technology advancements that's happening that require companies to be more adaptive and assertive in their pursuit of innovation. And an arrangement between a corporate body and a startup can lead to different risks and opportunities alike. It's for both the startups and the industry bodies. To understand this more clearly from the leaders themselves, so let us very quickly get into the need of the hour topic, that is corporate startup collaboration. And since we have a room full of startups waiting eagerly for their products to be deployed or to do a pilot with the industry, let me begin with the question to Madam Vinuta Patra, who's a Group General Manager, NALCO. Madam, what are the critical measures to be followed by the startups before approaching to the corporates for a seamless product acceptance by the industry?
Hello, am I audible? Okay. First of all, let me thank Lopa for that kind introduction, and I would like to congratulate the organizing committee for this conference. Okay, well, as my introduction says, I am a hardcore, a person who has worked in industry for more than 37 years. I am basically a chemical engineer. So I don't really synchronize with this IoT and all these, leap ahead things. But definitely if the startups, they can bring the industry and make it happen, make it leap forward with their innovations. And as she said, innovation is, it creates R&D, and innovation is an attitude. Every person, they do not have that, but if one has that, he can really leap, he himself can leap forward and help the industry. Now, coming to her question that how the industry can collaborate with startups for a seamless integration, I would say that in last few years, this startup phenomenon has, very aggressive, and what we are seeing under this government is really worth it. First of all, what industry looks for when you have a product, the innovation, when you are coming with an innovation, that person who is innovating should have a domain knowledge. Suppose you're coming to my industry, that is aluminum industry. Now, where you want to put your product, where you want to use it. So first of all, some sort of research is required. That what is the application, what are the parameters where you want to put your product and use it. So, of course, we have an MOU with STPI, and we have R&D collaboration with IoT things also with NIT and IITs also. And we have deployed some IoT products in our production facilities. Like examples I can give you, just 2 days back we have installed one sensor for this lean slurry pipe system, where we can really see in our mobile what is the pressure and whether leakage is going to occur or not. So that sort of deployment we do. But again, before that, we want to be very sure that the product is going to work in our facility. So coming to my ministry under which we are working, that is Ministry of Mines, NALCO comes under that. We have, this time you may see the Satyabhama portal, where we have announced the submission of application for R&D projects, where I was also in the committee, where we have given the topics of directed R&D, and in that we have some topics like development of online instruments, in-situ instruments for detection of impurities in scrap metal, so that because we are talking about recycling in these days. So that is one thing which this instrumentation people can do. And we also need all these chemical industry and metallurgical industries, we need sensors. Sensors for high temperature application, high corrosive atmosphere application, where all of you can really work. And of course, analytical instruments. I'm heading a lab where we have all the analytical instruments which are mostly imported, and they come with a very high cost. For if some work can be, started in that respect, it will be a great help for the industry. And then coming to another aspect which I would like to invite your attraction is, again, our ministry has announced another startup that is called PRISM, Promotion of Research and Innovation in Metal, Mining and Recycling sector, where we are promoting this startups by giving a fund of 50 lakhs and then 1 crore, and then some fund also for incubation center. So this is all, I think.
Thank you.
I would not take much of time, I think.
Thank you, thank you.
So
So it's for all the tech entrepreneurs to take a note of this. And Madam, I would just like to say that no department or no segment now is standalone. It's all interdisciplinary.
Definitely.
So domain knowledge, as Madam said, is needed with a customer-specific custom solution that may help a startup create a product that can be scalable and accessible. From someone who has worked extensively in startup corporate collaboration, my next question is to Mr. Rajesh Ram Mishra, who is the Chief Mentor of NGIS and ex-President ISA. Sir, in the age of Gen AI, how relevant do you think is a corporate startup collaboration is, and why it is specifically more important now?
Hello. Thank you, Lopa. And good afternoon, all of you. Just before I start answering the question, I want to say that I've been associated with STPI on the NGIS, which is basically promoting startups from this region. And I'll tell you that we provide up to 30 lakhs, part of the Chunauti program in terms of funding and the grant. Around 23% of total startups who have been funded across India are from this region. Okay, I think all of you need a big clap for that. And it is very happy to know that we are now increasing our the acceleration in terms of announcing up to 1 crore funding, I think. And then all the best to all of you who are going to pitch in today, right, in terms of winning it. So coming back to why corporate venture is critical today, right? Okay, if you are tracking, there are lots of articles. There's an excellent HBS article which says that if you look at it, the VC funding, in India is on decline, primarily because there are a lot of hype during COVID, post-COVID, that everything will become online and all that does not happen. So it has gone down from around 50 billion to 25 billion last year, right? Okay. Whereas if you look at corporate ventures, okay, globally, it has gone up by 150% year on year. So that means you have a lot more funds available from corporate ventures today to attract than the other VCs. And it could have multiple reasons, right? One is that there is a fear that, are we missing out into something? But the critical factor is that, something called open innovation, which all of you might be knowing earlier. Most of the products, R&D, like what Madam was saying, are all done in-house in corporates, okay? But now there's a realization that it's not possible keeping in pace with the technology advancement and all that, and also the R&D investment which is needed. So a lot of openness is there in terms of collaboration and co-building the IPs and everything. That's why the open innovation is driving a lot of collaboration with startups and corporates, okay? The second part, which is, driving, if you just give an example, Qualcomm Ventures, that is one of the oldest, corporate ventures, started in year 2000. Till date, they have 122 successful exits, means ventures they funded have become successful and they have recovered their money. Among them, there are 25 unicorns they have created, okay. So there are a lot of advantages of looking at corporate ventures. Typically, Lopa is driving this whole Electropreneur Park, we're doing electronic products and all that. anywhere you are very closely associated with selection of a technology, whether it is hardware or in a software platform, it is good to be associated with that corporation which is providing that, right? Okay. And you would have seen what Microsoft has done to ChatGPT, right? They brought back back to ChatGPT when he was fired from the board. Okay, so corporate VCs have a lot of clout today in terms of controlling how a successful startup happens, right? Okay, and what are the 3-4 factors which are driving that? One, I talked about open innovation. The second is that this whole concept around the generative AI and all. Okay, so everybody is every corporation is looking at how do I adapt these large language models and AI into my service offerings or into improving my customer, experience and all that. And many of them are not comfortable today using what is available in public domain. Okay, they want to implement their own private version of it. So the current data says around 20-25% of the corporations are implementing their own AI and LLM models and all that for generative AI. So there's a huge opportunity, and they don't understand. Like Madam said, she understands the process of the alumina creation or whatever, but how IoT works with it, that is not their forte. So same way, most of the corporations, they know that I have to adopt AI or ML, okay, but how do I do it? They don't know, and that's where I think all of you play a big role, and there is a lot of appetite for adopting you all. Okay, I think, and the last one I would say that SDG, that is a sustainable development goal all of the companies have. Like Intel Corporation, they have that they want to be net carbon zero footprint by 2040, okay. But nobody has a clue, how do I become net carbon zero footprint, okay. And they have allocated $300 million to achieve that, okay. So all that fund, whether you look at any large corporation, now they have a sustainability goal. All that money is for you to kind of grab it if you have an startup targeting that market, okay. I think to me, these are the factors which are driving it.
Thank you so much, sir. Absolutely. Actually, entrepreneurs and corporate VCs are actually now recognizing that corporate innovation or open innovation, as you said, is actually a strong node to develop the ecosystem as a whole. Coming to facilitators in the ecosystem, my next question is to Mr. Subrat Kumar Prushti, Director Technology, Department of Telecommunication, Bhubaneswar. Sir, as the demand in sectors of emerging technology areas like 5G, high-speed communication is increasingly being used by startups, we would like to know how government DOT is assisting them to provide the required test bed and testing infrastructure, or how is it helping them to connect to the industry bodies? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I thank STPI for giving this opportunity. Department Telecom, as you know, is now promoting different type of research and innovation. There are 2 types of funds. One is called Telecom Technology Development Fund, and another is Digital Communication Innovation Square Fund. The Telecom Technology Development Fund is for indigenous technology, which is capital intensive, maybe more than 10 crore. And the another fund, that is Digital Communication Innovation Square Fund, it is actually below 10 crore. And around 87 companies have benefited from this DCIS, Digital Communication Innovation Square Fund. But unfortunately from Odisha, very few have taken this benefit. And as you know, now technology has percolated each and every vertical. So we have 21 ministries of Government of India and also state government all coming together to discuss how in each ministry all these new technologies that can be used to enhance the productivity. So we have something called a vertical engagement program. That vertical engagement program is for agriculture, for mining, for industry, for health, and all types of sectors around these 21 sectors. So all of you, those who are interested, they can go to the website that bharatdigicom.in and can see all the Indian Institute of Technology, all the engineering colleges, all the Indian companies are there in the website, and you can get sufficient technical materials and collaborative materials how as a startup or as a MSME, you can leverage those technologies. Number two, we have actually, as our Honorable Prime Minister has declared, that there will be 100 5G use case laboratories in the country. Fortunately, from Odisha, 4 engineering colleges have been selected: IIT Bhubaneswar, NIT Rourkela, Shiksha Anusandhan, and KIT University. So, in these 4 institutes, government will set up the 5G use case labs. And these 5G use cases labs will be given free of cost access to startups and MSMEs who are working on this field. So, I think purchase order will be issued within 1 week. So, shortly, all the startups, those who want to use these laboratories and develop their products, they can contact me and also the corresponding institutes, so that they can develop their use cases corresponding to those products. Actually, what we have seen, that many companies are now innovating on ICT space. There are 2 types of things. One is developing ICT products itself. Another is developing ICT applications using the technology things. So, one part that I have showed, that if you are developing some ICT products, DOT is eager to help you, because in telecommunication, mostly it is dominated by Western or Chinese companies. So, any company who wants to develop some ICT products, they are also welcome. And as far as I have told that today, what our Principal Secretary is told, identify the problems. And as you know, we are going to remotest places of Odisha, taking 4G connectivity to them using Universal Service Obligation Fund. We have 6,000 4G telecom towers are coming in different parts of Odisha, where there is no road, where there is no electricity, where there is no other items, but they have a mobile tower giving 4G connectivity. So, I will request the people, the startups who are actually primarily in towns or cities, to go to those areas which are not developed till today. So, I called that concept total development of local area. TODOLA, TODOLA.
I hope everyone is taking note of the schemes that is mentioned by
and
sir.
Develop those local areas also. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I hope everyone has taken a note of the whatever schemes sir had just mentioned, and we all apply for that. For someone who has been on both sides of the table, working very closely with the startups as well as the industry, my next question is to Mr. Prashant Biswal, Head CSR and Corporate Relations, JSW. Sir, how do you think that corporates and PSUs assist startups in various areas such as regulatory frameworks, infrastructure, distribution channels, and customer reach? How exactly can corporates or PSUs assist the startups? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Lopa. Good afternoon, everyone. Since you mentioned, I've been on both sides of the table. I would say, as Mr. Misra also highlighted here, the VC venture capital funding for the startups is going down. Corporates are participating more in the funding, as well as there's a large segment in the startup ecosystem now who are looking at corporates and PSUs as their customers. So a couple of things I will highlight. One is that if you look at a group like us, JSW, which is into metal and mining, into steel, into energy, logistics, etc., etc. Now there is a lot of space for startups to provide technologies to companies like us. So I personally work in the CSR space. So I'll highlight few things. Like in the CSR space itself, as SDG was also mentioned here, most of the corporates have signed up to the net zero target. So there's a lot of space, for startups to play there. Whether it is helping the corporates achieve this goal, monitor, carbon offsets for them, etc., etc. Second is, we work on a lot of social issues, whether it is drinking water, sanitation, healthcare in remote areas, education or digital education. So, I would say in digital education space, we're working with startups. In healthcare, we're working with startups. In water, we are working with startups. So, being on both sides of the table, what I can see is, there are problems. There is a market here with us, and there are startups who have that product or service with them. So it's a good match. The only thing is, what we expect is, startups to come to us with foolproof products. Because when it is angel investors or VCs, you can take risk, you can take chance. They're willing to do that because they know they are getting into the startup ecosystem with startups where product might not be fully ready for market deployment. But when you're coming to a corporate, you need to have a foolproof product. There's a very less chance of experimenting unless there is a specific thing that we're working with, like the mining challenge that we're working with, where we're willing to do that, but not as a customer. When it is when the PSU or the corporate is a customer, then you cannot take a chance. It has to be a foolproof product. So I would say that looking at Odisha's corporate presence, you look at there's a large amount of our non-tax revenue comes from mining, metal and mining sector. I keep saying this. I think 82% plus percentage of non-tax revenue of Odisha coming from mining sector. So you look at the amount of money that is flowing into the market, the revenue that is being generated, and not only in the core but also in the allied sectors. You look at the downstream, you look at the logistics transport. Nowadays a lot of companies are working on putting their slurry pipelines, whether it is in the iron ore or steel space or aluminum. So there's a lot of space for startups to come into AI technologies for monitoring, to reduce the damage, reduce the repair and maintenance time, etc. So it's a large market. There's a lot of money, a lot of revenue involved. If you only look at Odisha itself, and if you look at India, it's a huge market. And now that Bhubaneswar, we have now a lot of MNCs coming into Bhubaneswar of late. There's more space for startups are getting created. So Lopat, I think we at the right time you are holding this conference, where it's the right time for startups to connect with the corporates, and it's going to be a win-win for both. It's not only corporates or PSUs who are going to benefit. We also need products. We need intelligent products which we don't want to invest in, but we want to buy it. So
absolutely, sir. And here I think accelerators or incubators like STPI can play a major role, at least from the due diligence or conducting such programs like we have done in the mining.
Absolutely. I think that's what, when I say foolproofing, we need somebody to back it, like STPI, saying that this product works. So then it's more comforting for us to issue a purchase order. Otherwise, we can't experiment much.
Yes, especially when accelerators like us, we have industry and the technical partners who vet throughout the program, the startup, what the product is about and all. Definitely corporates also put in a lot, put a lot on the line in collaborating with startups. It can be reputation, investment, and majorly outcome, especially when startups propose business models and technology which are not matured and the organization isn't ready to experiment it with. Thank you so much, sir. And heading a life sciences incubation center, the question for Nivedita Madam, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Institute of Life Sciences. Madam, what probable stages should a biotech startup look out for an industry partner, and how such collaboration are favorable for both?
All right, thank you, Lopa, for the question and organizing this. I think from a biotech startup perspective, the collaborations can be in 4 different stages. Very early on at R&D stage, where they can go to expose and find out the gap areas by knowing what industries are already there. Collaborate right initially and have complementary products or services to offer to the industry that are already established. That's one stage. The second would be, pre-validation or clinical stage, where the resources are less for the startups, and corporates have, either the resources in terms of machineries, in terms of funding, so they can collaborate in preclinical stage or pre-validation stage as well. So, corporates are also looking, clinical trials per se is very expensive in biotech field. It is very heavy capital or high capital kind of funds are required for deep tech startups. So that is one stage that corporates can come in as well. And of course, I think from startup perspective, what I would say, attach to corporates as early as you can so that you follow the regulatory guidelines. After you make a very nice product and you realize that this is not passing the regulatory lines, that will be difficult. So as early as you can get associated to corporates and find out how are the routes that you need to pass through to get the clearances, that will be really beneficial. I think this kind of a matchmaking is really necessary to get a better outcome, as very rightly said by Prashantji. You need to have a foolproof product. And how does this foolproof product come? When only corporate and startup have a match early on, so it is getting validated, and then something fruitful and would come. And of course, from corporate perspective, I would say they can expand or diversify their portfolios. They bring, because new startup brings new kind of innovation ideas, so it'll be a great way to diversify.
Yeah,
I think they are mutually benefit.
True, corporates can help both in building the product right and building the right product.
Yeah, so I think it's mutually beneficial for the ecosystem as well.
Yeah, and in the final stages of cooperation, maybe a pharmaceutical company can offer to acquire the startup. that can also happen.
That's difficult to say, but then yes, we are aiming towards it.
Thank you so much, madam. As news of hiring freezes and budget cuts are becoming increasingly frequent, corporate innovation and CVC leaders find themselves the needing to build a case to justify the continuation of open innovation. My question to Mr. Debashish Panigrai, would you please tell us, since traditional banking products often do not cater to the specific requirements of startups, do VCs tailor-make their financial products to start up the entrepreneurs? And if in that case, how is it done?
Sure. Very good afternoon to all of you, first of all. And more on a personal basis, so happy to see the startup ecosystem starting to thrive out of DISA. So personally, I think that's great, and thanks a lot to all the organizers of sessions like this. I think there's a lot of takeaways I'm sure each one of us are going to take from here. Coming back to your questions, unfortunately that's true, and I'm sure many of these startup founders here would agree with me. While needing funds walking into a traditional banks, the first thing is collateral, the second thing is a history of positive bottom line, and it has taken a long time for them to kind of cater products that suits the startups, right? So that's unfortunately true. And as they say, for every problem there lies a better opportunity. In order for this gap to be sort of catered to, which is why you see last 5 to 10 years, a lot of VC ecosystem has come up. One thing I can tell you for sure, being from the industry itself, there is no dearth of funds, right? And each of these VCs, be it debt, venture debt, be it venture equity, they're more than happy if they see value in your business, value in your products. They are more than happy to customize the whole thing. Let's say, for example, on the venture debt side, with the innovation of new products like say, revenue-based financing, invoice discounting, and many more products, they are more than happy to customize it. On the debt side, if we were to look at some numbers, FY23 itself, I think the target for the VC debt industry is to cross $1 billion in terms of funding. And mind you, these are smaller fundings, right? So the number of fundings that's going to happen or is happening is huge. The other beauty of the venture debt part is if they see value in you, if the relationship has been good for 1 or 2 years in terms of their funding and the repayment happening, they are typically going to fund you again if you need that funds. So there's a churn of capital that happens. Coming to the equity side of it, I think India has seen a flurry of, I think 600 plus venture equity firms, right? And there is no dearth of capital. Factually, it's true that in last 6 to 12 months, the venture equity side of funding has gone a little bit down. That doesn't mean that there is sort of shortage of capital. There are a lot of VC funds lying in there, happy to fund. But the idea from a founder perspective or a startup perspective, I think the thing that we need to be very clear about is what we want in terms of fund, whether debt or equity. If it is debt or equity, which particular structure that we need to go to, and then tap to the right kind of source. I can tell you there's no dearth of funding. I hope that answers.
Absolutely, and I guess somewhere in this ecosystem we need a little more awareness on these instruments, financial instruments, and that should also be taken care of.
I think on that, this whole ecosystem is evolving, right? Goes
Yes.
back 5, 7, 10 years. India didn't have venture capital to start with.
Right.
All of a sudden, last 5 years, there are so many venture equity guys, so many venture debt guys, corporates funding startups.
Absolutely,
Effectively.
there's
So
a
I'm sure-
Himalayan change in the ecosystem.
and in next 2 to 3 years, I think there will be enough awareness.
True. Thank you so much. One who is working towards revolutionizing the back-end infrastructure of financial service institutions. My question to Mr. Srimant Srivastav, the co-founder of Mool Innovation Labs. Since we have all spoken to corporates, I would ask, what has been your strategy to work with a corporate?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thanks Lopaji for giving us this opportunity as one of the incubated startups from STPI Odisha. It's already a pleasure for me to be amongst these luminaries here. So talking about our strategies, I would like to share more of our journey in terms of how we evolved as a startup. Our product is around tax optimization for individuals, more precisely salaried people, and we built a smart set of algorithms which kind of understand the individual and kind of do automated tax planning and financial planning for individuals. Now, when we build a product like any other startup, we were gung-ho ki ye to big jayega and it will be a revolutionary product. But yes, like all startups, we went through our journeys of ups and downs, and it's continuing. So initially when we started pitching to corporates, we realized...
Shrimanji, I would like you to also address like when exactly a fintech startup should look for a corporate collaboration. We heard the perspective from a biotech startup, a fintech startup.
Right.
What should be the performance indicators of a startup that they should look for a corporate collaboration? Maybe that would be a perfect question.
Sure, I'll add to that. Thanks. So our journey initially when we started like a year and a half ago with our matured product, I would say, because initial 1 year or so we took to kind of fine tune the product and get some early adopters. And once we had paying clients, small and mid corporates, we started pitching to large corporates also. And then we realized that we are running into a wall because obviously large corporates have very well defined systems, be it HRMS, ERP and processes. And that is where our product was running into some challenges. So internally we discussed, deliberated, brainstormed, and then we came up this whole thing of building open API products which can be integrated with other digital softwares, HRMS systems, ERP, and we have been to quite an extent successful, because as some of the panelists mentioned before me, that the product has to be really mature. And what we did is we kind of started building case studies around the maturity of the product. It is working for 6 months, 1 year in other corporates before approaching large corporates, mid corporates, because obviously, as Mr. Prashant and Nivedita ji mentioned, that the product has to be mature before corporates can take a bet. So it was very important that we built case studies, we built references, and then approached larger corporates. So some of these discussions have been successful. We have been able to break into a couple of large corporates also in terms of getting them on board. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
What are the performance indicators I asked? Like?
Right. So in terms of performance indicators, if you are a matured or a maturing product, you need to show quarter on quarter or month on month growth. Also revenue generation. So typically for SaaS startups, there are this average revenue per customer. Then the whole customer acquisition cost should be nominal. Also the ARR, MRR, which is the average recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue, should show a growth. The churn rate should be less. So these are some of the metrics which need to be tracked on an ongoing basis, and these should show either a growth or a stable performance, so as to be able to kind of get a validation, be it from corporates or VCs, so to say.
Thank you. I think that answers it perfectly. Back to Madam. Ma'am, how can PSU and corporate CSR funds be availed or utilized by the startups through accelerators or incubators, or for the product development or deployment journey, or like they can avail it directly? Because I guess everyone here wants to know this.
I can speak. Is it okay? Yeah. Well, I can speak about my company. I'm not aware about others. As far as CSR funding is concerned, we are not giving to startups. The funding of R&D funding, R&D and innovation funding can be diverted to startups, and as you know, we have some collaborations and we invite R&D proposals that may include startup subjects. Once in 2 years, we take out expression of interest for inviting proposals. And as I said earlier, under our ministry, we have already announced 2 guidelines, revised guidelines on R&D projects and innovation, and another is PRISM, that is promotion of research and innovation in metals and mining and recycling sector, where startups can participate and funding can be provided to them. I think it answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam. Yes, absolutely it does. I think also corporates are discovering, that accelerators are efficient, mostly to improve the prospects of their portfolio companies and get them well fitted to the corporate, to the industry needs. So yes, thank you so much. Coming to Rajesh Ram sir, how can Odisha or government build a vibrant startup ecosystem leveraging the corporate startup collaboration?
Thank you, Lopa. So first thing I wanted to repeat the whole thing, that data is king, right? Okay, nowadays, okay, if you have access to the right data, then you can build insights, you can, train your AI models to learn from it so that, you can deploy it. So access to data is where Odisha government can enable. If you look at in US, they have 300,000 data sets available in various areas, from transportation to healthcare and all that, which is publicly available. Okay. India, I don't know how many you have visited, we have data.gov.in, odisha.data.gov.in. So at India level, I think we have around 4,700, I was looking at data set. Odisha is catching up. I think enabling and opening up that data will help all the startups to apply that, because when you're talking about is going to be, generation of AI and, artificial intelligence learning and everything, only when you can train your model. For training model, you need curated data sets in large numbers, okay? So that can come from a source which, government can enable through all their various, departments, right? Okay. I think that can create a huge change in terms of our startups getting ready to deploy their product for the markets, okay. The other one I wanted to highlight is that, because I think there is a little bit of confusion between, we talked about corporate ventures and we talked about corporates buying startup products, okay. These are two different things, right? When a corporate venture, which is the venture arm of a corporate, is looking at startup, that time they're not looking at finished products which are proven and in the market. They're looking like a powerful idea which can align to their overall product roadmap, and they're ready to invest, okay. So I think, but when you as a startup are ready and trying to sell to a corporate for a revenue, that time you have to have a very stable and proven product like what you said, okay. So I think today, most of the large corporations, they have a venture arm which is fairly independent, and I think that is one area. The difference between a corporate venture and institutional venture is helping you to build your organization and make it financially scalable. Whereas corporate venture is more preparing a product that aligns to the corporate's product, whatever they are selling, right? It's good Microsoft or anybody, right? Okay. So to that extent, corporate ventures are not looking for, is it a startup which can become a unicorn? They're looking at a product which will help them scale their existing product line or add a future product line. So I think you are better off aligning with corporate ventures, because in Odisha, I think what I have seen is we have supported a lot of startups. They come to one level, like they have few customers, they're not able to scale to the next level of attracting funds, okay? And that's where, because we work with large corporations, part of the government's buying power, we can invite those corporate ventures to support and operate startups in Odisha. And one other point of advice to all of you is that when you're looking at corporate, look from two angles, right? Is your product helping the customers grow its existing business, or are you helping the customers to create a new line of business, okay? But irrespective of, so based on that, your choice to decide whom you should talk to. But at the same time, better to align, because Lopa wanted to address, horizontal versus vertical alignment. Always align with the vertical, okay, because the business unit leader and their access to customers, which will make you successful. Horizontal looks good. I'm a platform, it will cut across many verticals, I'll sell big. From theoretical point of view, looks good, but from succeeding as a startup, better to align on a vertical front. Okay. I think these are all my suggestions.
Absolutely, sir. But then I always feel like if it is an industry use case based solution, and suppose for some reason the industry fails to get along with the startup, or then do we think that the startup product is doomed, or how is it? Like if it has to be only vertical or a use case based?
No, what I'm saying is, of course, whatever you're doing has to have a use case, right? Without that, you cannot succeed. The point is, a lot of times I have seen that, even in my company and, Wipro and other places, we are more comfortable saying I'm building a platform which will work across, healthcare, transportation. I'm creating a platform. That kind of approach, don't take horizontal approach. Take a vertical use case approach, okay? There, I think you have a higher chance of aligning with corporate and succeeding, okay? I think the other part, also see at a question on localization versus globalization question, which I wanted to say that just from my experience, we are building a wearable ECG device, for monitoring remote health of patients. For training that device, we were dependent on data from MIT, okay? Because that is a golden standard, lots of ECG data is available, you pump it through your 3C. But the point is, when it worked well for US environment, it didn't work for Indian environment, because people sweat here a lot. It is dependent on your body impedance and all that. So localization of your product for that particular area is very critical, and that is where, again, I'm coming back to the same thing. We must have data for the local market, then only we can prove and do it, okay? So.
Right, and the startup will always be at the short end of the bargain if they don't commit fully to what they are doing, be it for the collaboration or the product development. Absolutely. Coming to Subrat Prishti, sir, what are the, how can startups, encounter the challenges that they face while modifying the products? When you say about the schemes of DOT and all, that's for for time limit, like for there's a timeline to it. So in case, because right now the technology advancements are so frequently changing, so how do you think modifying or modifications in the product or the prototype can be done in a fixed timeline?
That's a good complex question actually. What is happening? Technology is moving very fast, and one technology is becoming obsolete after some time. And now, as you know, the natural intelligence is competing with artificial intelligence. So, when you see any sector, for example, let's say I am saying of mining. In China, the mining area is totally controlled by 5G robots. Earlier, the people were going inside the mines. Now, people are not going inside the mines. The robots are going inside the mines. Those who are operating the mines, they are sitting in an air-conditioned chamber and controlling the entire thing using 5G technology. The 5G technology has three components. One is high-speed broadband, another is low latency, another is the energy efficient, that is used for IoT, Internet of Things. So considering these three slices, the technology has been used for different sectors. And if you are thinking of, for example, Nalco or Jindal, JSW, if they want to make Industry 4.0 or wants to control their mines with 5G, our startups have the products. And those products can be used in the corporate environment. And as you know, Reliance Jio has already a standalone 5G network. There are two types of 5G network. One is standalone 5G network and is a non-standalone 5G network. In a standalone 5G network, all these three types of things can be tested and can be done. So, the startups and the Nalco and the company and the telecom operator all can come together and do this development, mining development in Odisha. I request that let us do a 5G use case pilot starting from Nalco or JSW with our startups who are eager to do this. And you see, everything has two sides. It can be succeed, it can be failure. But now the situation is whether we have attempted it or not. If we are attempting, then that is a success. That is what I want to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Coming to Mr. Prashant Vishwal, sir. So what are the critical entry barriers for startups to start up corporate relationships, and how can one overcome these challenges?
I think, one of the major entry barrier is the understanding, understanding that particular corporate that you are approaching, So mostly the startups that I have seen while I was working with startups, they're either building a B2B or B2C product, not keeping the corporates in mind as a customer or a prospective, customer. I think investor now it's emerging, but so if you have not built something for the corporate market, then you need to first develop understanding, customize your product, tweak it to fit into the corporate market, and then go and approach them. Don't go and approach with something which is built for somebody else, and the corporate may not straight away understand it, whether it is fitting or not. So I see that a lot of startups come and say that I have built it for something else, but you tell me how you want, I will customize it. That's a wrong way to approach. According to me, that's a wrong way to approach. So first develop understanding about that particular corporate or that sector at least. Let's say you're talking about the mining sector or the steel or sector or telecom. Number two is don't say that you can solve everything. A lot of startups do feel that they can solve everything. So I think somebody mentioned about Mr. Mishra mentioned about going vertical rather than horizontal. So you need to be very specific that what are you solving for them? Whether you're solving a problem that exists in their business, whether you are helping them scale up, or whether you are helping them streamline something. For example, JSW as a group adopted Darwin box, way before they become a unicorn. So corporates are willing to be early adopters, but then you have to understand what they need, right? So those are barriers. Cost is not a barrier if you have the right product. So I would say cost is absolutely not the barrier. But understanding the need is definitely the key, and then presenting your product in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless there's a product that completely satisfies or is a solution to the challenges faced by the corporate, it will always be a tug of war.
Absolutely, and it takes time. See, as I said, industry is not the same. The metal mining industry is very different than the IT industry. Your response from the corporates may vary from industry to industry as well. So there are certain traditional industries who take their own time to whether they want to go with you or not. As a product user, it took us some time to really to really convince our company to go with one of the startups here. I don't know if it's there, Inocule, who makes these products for the mining industry. But once you are in and you prove, then you have a huge market. They're now getting a very significant amount of their revenue comes from companies like us. So you have to have patience, understand the corporate's need, and don't hesitate working on it again and coming back to them.
Yes, going back and forth, it will be a time delay, both which can be challenging for both the corporates and the startups.
Absolutely.
In navigating.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Over to Nivedita ma'am. For biotech startups, the gestation period is usually high, like I see for the electronic startups. So how do corporates access the risk factors involved, and how the startup should overcome these challenges? Please share your insights on this.
Yeah, very true. I think all deep tech startups have longer gestation periods. I think corporates can do their strategic due diligence, and all of these products have stages. The initial R&D phase, then you have pre-validation stage, then validation stage, and then commercialization stage. I think from corporate perspectives, hiring right kind of scientific experts, regulatory experts, and then knowing to know where they are venturing in, and they can always fund incrementally, stage wise, so that they are aligned with the startups and they grow together. I think that would be my take from corporate perspectives. And from startup perspective, there's something called technology readiness level. I think all of the startup who's beginning their entrepreneurial journey needs to first understand how their technology needs to take a path to productization. And how many stages, what is the quantum required? They estimate quantum required.
Yes, that milestone mapping needs to be done
at the very initial stage. Otherwise, they end up getting frustrated, leaving that, and all of that. I think if they have a strategic approach to align that up, and then there are grants for very deep tech, there are grants, venture capitalists, and angel investors, and of course there are different other schemes that government is also helping them out. I think that kind of learning is very important before they even venture. And I think to me this is very important from corporate perspective as well as from startups perspective. Thanks.
Thank you so much to Mr. Debashish Panikrai. Often the startups are in a dilemma in estimating their valuation, startup valuation precisely, while raising their funds. So how should they access their valuation, taking the market demand or technology into account? Instead of going to a certified value or something, how should they start assessing their valuation and work accordingly towards it?
Sure, I guess this is pretty interesting. So I would start by saying or borrowing the famous tagline which says valuation is an art, not science, right? We can run as many Excel sheets over as many period of time to figure out a number. But to me and in my experience, I think my valuation is this particular number at which some third party is willing to write a check, right? That's the only thing that's relevant for me. Point number two, effectively in terms of achieving, I think going by this, there's nothing called precisely correct valuation, right? I think what can be attempted is to arrive at an optimum valuation. And you arrive at an optimum valuations only when you run a very tight and very clear process with all thoughts aligned to what you are actually looking for. So to be very specific, I would lay out maybe four pointers, which I think maybe each one of you can use. Number one, I think more often than not as founders, I've seen going and doing a carpet bombing, right? And going and meeting some 50 VCs and getting confused as to where to go and what's my real valuation is, right? For that, if you actually do a little bit of homework and go through a host of VCs, each of the VC fund has its own mandates, which sector to support, what ticket size, what structure, everything is available on internet, right? So do some exercise and first figure out which are the 10, 15, 20 names that you want to approach, wherein the whole discussion remains very focused, right? So point number one, avoid a carpet bombing, select your names and then approach. Point number two, I would say for VC funding, valuation after some point in time becomes irrelevant. If you see the approach with which most of these VC investors comes in and all the discussions finally ends up a particular stake being negotiated rather than it's being a function of the valuation itself. So be clear in your mind that at the stage of the startup that is there, what particular stake that you are willing to let go for the business to run or for the business to grow. So that's point number two. Point number three, always when you are raising equity, always make sure that that's a convertible structure. It's not a direct equity. What you achieve by doing that is effectively at least postponing the dilution that's going to sort of hit you, right? Point number four, and I think I would say that's the most critical, is as founders, make sure that you have a runway for at least 18 to 24 months in mind. Again, this is a very common mistake startups do, that you raise funds when you are in desperate need, right? And especially when there is desperation in your face, the guy sitting on the other side is going to get the upper hand and bargain hard, right? So as founders, as much critical it is for you to run the business and make it grow, it is as critical for you to make sure that the business has a cash runway for at least 18 to 24 months and avoid being in the market trying to raise funds as often as possible, because that's something that never adds to your valuation going forward, right? So this, I mean, if you take care of these four cardinal principles, I think achieving the optimum valuation is doable. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think valuation also follows value creation. So, so once you create that value, valuation will automatically.
So that's where I have a little bit of a different take when it comes to venture capital funds, as in the financial fraternity doing venture investing versus the corporate doing the venture investing, right? Because if for me as a startup founder to get corporate venture funding, if the product has to be already foolproof, then you are no longer funding an idea, right? You are funding the growth of that particular startup, right? And what the financial investors do is they basically fund an idea, and which is where their expectations is to get a 5x, 10x, 15x return on that, right? So that need to be a little bit aligned is what I believe, but I think we are evolving.
Thank you. Coming to the last question to Mr. Simant, what unique value propositions entrepreneurs must develop and employ to stand out from the crowd and secure the right market share? We need to wrap up, so I request you to be a little short. And
yeah, sure. So, see, I would talk more from personal experience being a startup founder myself. Typically what we have done is, first is we went ahead and identified a very specific unique problem faced by our targeted customers. So advice to all startup founders is identify a unique problem which is not kind of being solved by too many people in the market today. Second is, even if you are kind of having some kind of overlap in terms of the segment you are targeting, then you should be able to differentiate yourselves from the competitors. What is your USP or unique value proposition? Third is, you should quantify the value you are bringing to the table. So typically any collaboration, be it a startup, corporate, or any client collaboration, involves if I am investing so much, what is the return on investment I am getting? So that ROI should be quantified, I mean to say. And finally, how effectively you are able to communicate this whole value proposition which you are bringing. The messaging should be loud and clear, to the point, and crisp. That's a very short and sweet answer I can give.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Just the key takeaways of the panel discussion. So for the startups, it is know your customer well, because relationships real matter, and find your use case. That matters because sometimes you can pivot, but technology has to meet the needs of the corporates. Know your stakeholder and also understand their fiscal and budgetary cycle. So that will give you a chance to work with the corporates closer, and be always prepared for an opportunity, and you should be knowing how to win that too. For the corporates, when it comes to agility, startups have an edge over large corporations. Though large corporations sit on resources which startups can hardly dream of, the combination of an entrepreneurial activity with corporate ability can be an absolute match. But it's also very difficult to achieve. To sum it up, I'll just quote Chris Anderson, who said that in the 19th century, you won in business because your company was bigger or your plant was more productive. In the 20th century, you won in business because you had a better product. But in the 21st century, you win in business because your ecosystem is larger and faster than the others. So yeah, so congratulations to everyone who's present here, and thank you so much for sparing your time today, esteemed panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lopa. I think this is a very, very enriched panel, diverse and enriched, and I think we were able to bring out at least some key aspects of the whole startup corporate collaboration and working together. Wish we had more time, and I think each one of them can take that much time individually. I think we will have future opportunities to do that. Thank you very much, Lopa.